Joined by Aaron Solomon, the co-founder of Amble. Amble is a platform that aims to revolutionize online bookings. Aaron is an inspiring individual, and I really enjoyed this conversation. He began to sell into restaurants with zero prior hospitality experience, just using good old-fashioned door-to-door sales. In this episode, he shares his strategies on selling into his first restaurant, on building a platform that is used by thousands, and how he and his team is combating the no-show and cancellation culture within his industry. Hope you enjoy. Welcome.
Good, thanks. Thank you. All good, mind you?
I can see for me, it's nighttime. It looks like it's daytime for you. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Dubai at the moment. So it's, what is it? That's not too early. It's 9:30.
Nice,
But yeah,
nice.
you, it's big difference. Time difference.
It's getting late. It's getting late, but I wanted to make this happen at all costs. I came across Amble. I came across you through a friend, and I started playing around with the app and went back in time to see kind of the iterations that you guys took to get to where you're at. And seems like an amazing journey. I wanted to kind of pick your brain, learn more about how you guys started and where you guys are now. So typically ask all my guests to kind of give a brief, introduction about themselves, who you are, what you're working on, just to give us a bit of insight into you, and then we can kind of jump in, and I have a ton of questions to ask you.
Well, look, thanks for having on and reaching out. So I left school at 18 and just went straight into finance. Like I had maybe, everyone went on kind of summer holiday or uni or traveling or whatever. After that, I had like 4 or 5 days. And in those 4 or 5 days, I was handing out CVs in London and I just wanted to get a job. That's all I cared about. And I stayed in finance till I was 27, so 9 years, and then had the idea of Ambl, and then just quit and threw everything into it. And now, nearly 3 years later, I'm in Dubai, we're in London, and it's been a hell of a journey. It's not my first business, but it's the first one that's actually started working.
Well, why did you want to go work right out of college? I mean, right out of I think, you were based in the UK, so that was right out of high school. What was the motivation behind that? Like, why did you not want to go to college?
There was nothing that interested me other than earning a living, like at all. There was nothing that I wanted to study. I mean, I was good in school. I was good at academically, but I just couldn't see anything that I genuinely wanted to do other than just go and earn money. And maybe that was due to upbringing, I don't know, but it was just like this sense of I needed security. Which is obviously mad. I'm doing a startup now, so it's the opposite of security.
It's the opposite, yeah.
I wanted to go out there and just start getting ahead of the game. That was really it. So I started at a finance company. I actually managed to get the job because someone dropped out of the interview process. Right. And the recruiter said to me, if you can get an area in London called Knightsbridge in the next 2.5 hours, you can have an interview. Well, I live 2.5 hours away. So I put on like my £20 suit, like got on this train, ran to this office, phones were okay with Google Maps like then. And I got there and I think they started me on like £12,000 in the basic. They was like, yeah, you got 3 months to start on this. Wow. It actually cost me more money to get to work because of the train cost.
I'm
at
sure.
The time. Yeah. But then I was there for like 3 years and then started to move up in the ranks. And then before I quit, I was really at the top where I was earning a fantastic amount of money for my age. I mean, really where my wife didn't even have to work, taking out clients, really got to the top of that. And it was like, I dreamt about, oh God, what it's going to be like when I earn this. And then I did it and I was like, shit, this can't be it. Like it can't be here, And then that's kind of where I decided to move into startup. I had this idea and just ran with it again.
And what was this idea? How did it come up?
Well, going back to what I was saying about taking clients out for dinner, then obviously COVID happened. Everyone's working at home for 2 years. We come back to the office after COVID. People start going out again. And my boss said to me, he's like, right, we've got big clients coming into town. You need to find a table for 6 people. I was always the one that was doing the bookings. I was always the one that was finding places. I was always the one there in the restaurant. And then I went on couple of apps and it was like the same restaurant sort of paying to be at the top, and I was like, I don't want this, don't want that, annoying, bit archaic to use. You're familiar. Then you go on Google and I type restaurants near me. 4 or 5 restaurants pop up in the area. One website didn't work, one had terrible pictures, called one, didn't answer, called another, press 1 for this, 2 for that. And I was like, why can't I just say 6 people need a table and it can ping out like how an Uber driver takes a job where a restaurant goes, yeah, we've got space. Like, and it was that instant thought where I thought, well, you know, not just from COVID, but the sort of generation, everyone wants to basically click a button and it arrives, be it food, be it travel, be it retail, same day delivery, you know, click 20 minutes groceries. Like, it's crazy, right? And then I didn't see that for hospitality. And then I just had that like bucket of cold water. I was like, someone's got to have done this. And I just had this instant vision for the app and what it would do, right? Say what you want and it pings out to restaurants and all these responses of great restaurants, taking back all the time that I've just wasted. That's really what I want to do, just save time. I can't see a world where people want it to take longer to do anything, right? Especially booking a restaurant. So I then walked around London for like 3 months, I think, after work. And bearing in mind, I live 2 hours out of London. I'd stay in like a awful hotel overnight, or I'd get the last train home and back up again at 6 a.m. So I'd have like 3-4 hours sleep. I started walking around London, pitching restaurants this idea. If I could show you people in the area that actually wanted a table in the moment, you know, what would you do with all these empty tables or cancellations that you have? And I actually found it was a much bigger problem. It wasn't just a consumer problem, but it was actually a massive problem in hospitality as well.
And so, got it. So you kind of started off first thinking about what was the pain point that I was feeling, right? As a consumer, what sort of experience do I want to have in order to find the right restaurant, venue, whatever that is? So you started with your own pain, and then you went and you sort of surveyed the market. What were those like initial early conversations like? Who did you talk to? What were they telling you? What was that feedback that allowed you to kind of see the pain that they were feeling?
Well, you can't go out to a restaurant during a busy period, because obviously I'm working till 6 o'clock in the evening and I'm going out and pitching them. Right?
100%. I know how that feels.
And to get any time with a restaurant, sometimes I'd be like, oh, can I buy a drink for you and the manager just to get some insight? So like I'd be drinking all the time as well. But for me, it was understanding like they all wanted the same thing. They all wanted visibility. They all wanted covers. Everyone struggled with no-shows and cancellations, even the higher ones. And that's why there's so much like card guarantee stuff, you know. And it was a bad behavior from customers that was kind of causing that to happen. And then the other thing is that actually how fragmented the hospitality market is, because, you know, you take a busy street in New York, London, Dubai, and you put 5 restaurants on that street. One's using one reservation system, one's using another, one's using another, one's using another. So there's nothing unified, there's nothing aggregated, and a customer has no place to find availability of those restaurants in one place. They might have one app that shows one, and then what about the other 4? So it's all fragmented.
I see. Yeah. So recently I'm booking a table for 5 for this Friday for my team. And I went online. My typical process is I go through and I write the name of the restaurant on Google, query that, and then I write reservation. So I see sometimes the restaurant has their own kind of internal, they have their own website, and then they plug in Toast as an example. And then some of them use like Resi for some of the higher end, some of the higher end restaurants and venues. And it sort of is a little bit fragmented. And actually, as I was preparing for this conversation and making that reservation, I noticed that some of them do ask for a credit card and some of them don't. And I started to think, okay, if I was in a business owner's shoes, what is the trade-off that I make if I ask for a credit card guarantee versus just taking a reservation without that? What are the sorts of trade-offs that businesses face when they have to think about putting their restaurant up on one of these reservation management platforms?
Well, I mean, you know, this is something that I care quite a lot about, and we can talk about it later, but I've put some procedures in the app to try and encourage a better behavior because, for example, well, I can go through those now. On Amble, you can't block book. So if you book somewhere for 7, you can't book somewhere else for 7. And right now you can do that because everything's fragmented. Yeah. So there are people who make 5 or 6 bookings for a certain time, and then they pick where they want to go, which is very unfair. Also, if you no-show or cancel several times consecutively without reasons, we will suspend the account and ask the customer why. And then what the other thing we do is, let's say you're a top customer at restaurant X, and one day you go to restaurant Y and you're a good customer. That venue does not know that you're a good customer. So obviously we know that how much you're going out, what you're doing. So we can almost share that information, being like, this Daniel was a fantastic customer, look after them. So they're the kind of things we do because it's obviously unified. So they're things I started to do very early on to try and encourage a better behavior, because quite frankly, it's the behavior of the industry or people that has affected the credit card details and things like that. Because, if everyone was 100% going to show up on time to their booking, there would be no need for credit card details.
How did you guys make the early like MVP of the product? I looked at your background. You said you were in finance. What about your co-founder? Were you guys technical? How did you guys build the early Amble?
He was a tech recruiter, so he had 100 times more experience in tech than I did. We're not tech people at all. And, you read a lot of these startups where it's like, the tech founder that built it and things like that. Obviously, we didn't have that luxury. So it was like, how can we make an MVP with someone that we trust and not like waste money and things like that? So it was difficult. It was really difficult. But I think it was more building something that allowed us to properly convey the vision of what we wanted to do. And as we started to get the validation, then you can like start to fund it properly,
I see. Did you guys just like make a prototype, like a clickable prototype for an app or for a web app? What did you guys do?
We invested in a prototype. It wasn't a lot of money to build the prototype and just build the screens of how we wanted it to work. And then it was just good old fashioned door-to-door sales. And we signed up about 200 restaurants in 3 months going door-to-door sales in London. And then after the validation and sort of feedback, we then raised £100,000 in friends and family to like start the business. And at that point, actually 3 years ago in February, we both quit our full-time job.
What was that like for you? Getting a cushy salary and then going all in on this venture?
Honestly, a lot of people asked me that, because it was a very good salary. Like it was a fantastic salary, to the point my parents are like,
you're crazy.
You're mental. Like, you're mental. I didn't care. I just had this thing to do. And I didn't want anything getting in the way, because for me, I could carry on working what I was doing. Yes, okay, great, earn good money, have a nice house, have a mortgage, go on holiday 3 times a year, But it wasn't about the money, because when I realized it wasn't about money, because I already was earning money that I wanted. And I realized it was just about doing something big, like doing something that I put my mind to and all of my energy to then unfold. And to be honest with you, mate, the best times in my life, other than getting married, obviously, were I'll be on the tube in London and someone would be talking about Amble to their friend, right? Or I'll wake up in the night and there'd be like 50, 60 bookings in the early days. And I'm like, oh my God, people are using my idea. That is far more fulfilling than earning good cash.
I agree.
I just want that to get bigger and bigger.
I agree. What were your first customers? Who would you sell to? Who was the first person who believed in you?
Well, we started doing last minute bookings, because we didn't have integrations, and that was another pain point, is restaurants.
We should definitely talk about by integration.
Yeah. No, for sure. But obviously we didn't have that. I was like, so what's the easiest way for a restaurant? Because they're busy, right? So if you start having loads of bookings for different times, it would be a car crash, because they're all used to using one system. And there's 40, 50, 60, 100 people in a restaurant. Like 100 people need to know what Ambl is, or as the customer experience is short. And to be honest with you, this was a big headache in the early days, because you'd have a manager be like, yes, I want this. But then staff leave, staff turnover. So it's just this constant. And then when you're trying to build up the marketplace and still keep that front of mind, it's a very hard balancing act. So what we did is we started with last minute bookings. So like same day bookings, which was kind of like a bit of a, can't get everyone. Let's just start with like the spontaneous
bit of a
last
wedge.
minute. Just start with that. Just try and make this side of the market work before we start going to an app for everything. And we just couldn't do it. But that was still difficult. That was still really difficult. We started with we had 200 obviously restaurants sign up, but I didn't want to go with 200 straight away, because it's an MVP. Like, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And we launched with about 30 restaurants. But even on launch days, like, that was probably the worst day of my life. The thing is,
what happened?
It's not. Well, the whole Uber idea of pinging out to restaurants.
Yeah.
People started doing it, and the restaurants were like, "How do I stop the pings?" I'm like, "That's how the product works." So that's day one, right? So you're like, "Oh my God!" Like, everyone's like, "Yes, this is amazing. Of course, I want to be notified when someone wants a table." And then day one, they don't. So it was like, okay, well, we need to fix this quick. So it was just this constant like, the thing is there's a big misconception. Like the fun stuff is all right, raising money and building a product and getting people to say, yeah, this is great. It's all like bullshit. When you go live, that's where it all starts. That's where you're like swimming, keeping momentum until you get it right. It's like surviving until you do. And that's where you really start learning, So, the early days were really tough. We did try to do a lot with customers, like customer feedback. But to be honest with you, when I look at the product now compared to what it was and what you think's already with, it's crazy. But then there was a guy that I spoke to really, really high up in Morgan. He did give us some good advice because it's always like, oh, it's not ready, it's not perfect. Like, if you're launching when it's perfect, you're launching too late. Just get it out, and that's when you just go.
To that point, it does sound like you waited until you built up a bit of a critical mass with restaurants, right? You didn't start with just one restaurant on a platform.
No.
You went with 30. So in a way, you did kind of take a bit of a gamble by putting up all these different restaurants and then just going live. Typically, what I hear is like you start very small. So like, I'm curious, like, why didn't you just start with like one restaurant or one venue?
I mean, we kind of you think 30 is big, but when you're in a city with 17,000 restaurants and you're serving a 1 mile radius, very limited people can actually use your app. And do you have the restaurants that they want? Right? That's the other thing. So you think that, and like generally what you want to do is launch on a street and get people to book and we did the testing with that. That's how we tested it. I'd stand in restaurants with them so they got a booking and do that. I'd be every hour of every day in a different restaurant doing it, right? And standing on the street getting people to download the app and book it. Yeah. And that's how you started. But, again, that's the testing phase, but you've got to solve a problem. Having 30 restaurants that you can book that day in a little part of London isn't solving the problem. Having every single restaurant, fantastic restaurant that you can click and see real-time availability and save all your time is, but it's obviously getting to that stage and you can't do that from day one.
That's true. And I think that's a good segue. So how do you guys get that visibility? What type of integrations do you guys have? And curious how you thought through the strategy, right? Early on, you can't have it all. You start small. To the point where you are now, 3 years later, I'm sure you have much more robust solutions. So how did you guys get those early integrations?
Well, I think it goes back to the point I said about like when you're live, it's then the survival mode kicks in and listening. And I think, the vision I had for Amble hasn't changed, being an app that is in every city with all the top restaurants and solving that quick availability. You click a button on what you want to rise, So the vision hasn't changed, but how we're getting there, of course, is changing every day, right? And, it was just sticking true to what I wanted to happen, which wasn't like I want everyone to move and get off what they're doing and come to Amble. I wanted to build something amazing for customers that seamlessly work with venues. And I think that I just kept doing that and tried to make everything better for restaurants, not harder, not make them change, not make them subscribe, not make them pay or do anything that is more of a stress. It started to like resonate. And then, I then thought, right, we need to really work on the back end to make this robust so that we can scale, because at the end of the day, you need the product, but you need the distribution. It doesn't matter if I've got the most amazing tech, but I need to distribute it quick. So that's where we've been focusing. And because of that focus, it started to get attention of like quite major players in the market that didn't necessarily have a marketplace. So it's kind of putting that together where we actually got quite, I started with a few sort of pubs and bars in London, cocktail clubs and things like that. Then we started to get some quite good brands on, then some global brands on. And as we got the global brands on, that might have given us one site to test. It was that kind of validation in the market where the systems that they use went, well, if they want it, we'll do it. So it was kind of then putting Amble with them. So now actually seamlessly, it fits with what they're doing. Given that as an example, 2 years ago, it was walking around London, standing in restaurants, helping them with a couple of pubs and bars, places you wouldn't know, back alley stuff, just trying to test it. And then 2 years later, we're working with Hilton, Marriott, Jumeirah, Atlantis, Gaucho, Hawksmoor, massive brands. Because I listened to I didn't want to just do it my way. It was whatever way the market needed. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Exactly. And we have a very similar strategy. If a big customer comes to us and says, hey, we want to use your solution, and they're using this POS system, they're using this communication system, we'll build out those integrations. I think it's important in the early days, you got to be lean. You got to build for what those early customers have. And in our case, the early restaurants had Toast. And so we built out those integrations. But I know that as soon as we get the validation from the market that they want our solution, they're willing to pay for it, and there's a contract signed, absolutely we'll build out those integrations. But it is a bit of a chicken or the egg problem, because types of questions I get asked
Always.
is like, how many integrations do you have? How many restaurants are you working with? And we're like, hey, we're still in the early stage. We don't have a lot.
I had that. I mean, that's what we get now. Like,
Yeah.
you got to be transparent, especially when I came to Dubai, 6 months ago. No customers, no venues. Every single restaurant is like, well, how many bookings do you get? How many users do we have? How many venues do you have? None, none. Okay, but this is my plan and this is what we're doing. It's like, you've got to just be transparent. Can't hand it all straight away. People need to just understand the journey and understand the vision, and that's what you should be talking about. Not being like, we can do this and we're going to do that. Like, this is what we've got right now and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we talked about.
People are human, and that sounds really stupid, but they will understand.
That's
Will
right.
understand.
That's right. And like we talked about last week, you told me, is like, you got to sell them on you. You got to sell them on the vision. And the early adopters are going to be buying the vision. They're going to be buying the team. And the rest of the adopters will come if you build an amazing product and you've kind of refined it and de-risked it for them. So I guess to that point, I did want to ask you about your go-to-market strategy. Did you come up with any growth hacks? Anything that kind of helped you win those early deals? Maybe some strategies that you kind of found along the way. I'm curious, as someone that is also selling to restaurants, what sorts of growth hacks did you come across along the way?
Integration. If it works with what they currently got and it makes their life easier and there's a genuine straight away no-brainer added value, that's why I've spent so long building out this product, because, there is no reason not a venue not to have Amble now. Like, I'm not just saying that as a founder. You're either going to get seen by people or a booking. That is it. They're the two outcomes. You're either going to get seen by loads of people and all the content that we do for you and pushed out, so your brand's being noticed, or you're going to get a booking and it's going to go straight into your current system with all your other bookings, nothing else needed. So what's the downside?
Yeah, there isn't, if you sell it that way.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
So when they're like, oh, but actually you're going to have to change this thing, but you're going to have to pay us this and we're going to do this. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You make it as seamless as possible. Make it as seamless as possible. This is what other people wanted. We've done it. And just good old fashioned fucking sales, mate. Get out on the road.
Let's talk about sales. Seems like you were a hustler. Seems like you're a hustler on my team.
I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. I'm doing door-to-door sales 3 years later,
How is the pitch? How has the pitch changed over the years for you? How has the strategy changed? Has it kind of stayed the same?
Not the strategy. It's just getting in front of as many people as possible, but a pitch. 100%. I've been doing the same pitch for 3 years and also building it at the same time. So there's not anything I don't know about it. That's what's won the business. And to be honest with you, kept venues with us, despite in the early days, while we're still trying to get it right. It's going back to your point of chicken and egg. It's like, you have no users, but you're not going to get users if you don't have an amazing product and amazing venues. But then you're not going to get venues if you don't have users. So you've got to get one right, So it's a hustle, man. It's hard.
Was it more difficult for you to get the users, or was it more difficult for you to get the venues onto Amble?
Not difficult to get users. It's difficult to retain users if you've missed things. Venues will be on, and if there's a problem, you can fix it, or you can talk to them and be like, oh yeah, no, we can update this, no problem. A customer comes on, searches in a part of London where we don't have a restaurant, whatever. So it's easy to get it's easier to get customers, much harder to keep them, retain them. It's harder to get a venue, but it's much easier to keep them on, because obviously you've got that dialogue. So you've got to manage both. Yeah,
and for someone that didn't come from a hospitality background, I'm sure you were. I remember seeing some of your posts. You were an avid, club goer, and you love eating at nice restaurants. I can just tell by your swagger. You seem like the type of guy that has good class and good taste. So I'm sure you probably have been to a lot of venues. You've never actually,
Hundreds.
yeah, hundreds, I'm sure, but you've never
Yeah.
actually been in the business owner's shoes. What was that like for you to kind of sell to an industry that you weren't really familiar with? And this is coming from someone that has never worked at a restaurant. I mean, I've worked a couple jobs where I was working with food,
I know. I mean,
but
yeah, that's the thing.
you know,
My first job was in like a pub. It wasn't like owning a restaurant. It wasn't
exactly.
anything
Yeah.
like being in hospitality. I think all I've done is try and learn as much about it as possible. I've had so much exposure to it from all types of businesses. So it's not like I would work with one restaurant and only know about that. It's hundreds of restaurants that I speak to, and hundreds of restaurants we speak to, and hundreds of people that I speak to about it to get it right. You know, from the restaurants all the way through to the tech businesses that are serving that space. So I've got a good understanding of the space now. And it was just like, not trying to push something in that's not going to work. It's just trying to find something that would work with them, that resonated with people. That's really the key. Because you don't want to be ignorant and go into that being like, I don't know better. From the startup space and hospitality space, I don't know better. I know a lot now.
Right.
A lot more people know a lot more than me. Right. But then obviously, we've got quite a few people in hospitality that have invested in Ambl, which has also very much helped the landscape.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Just giving you a sense of credibility, right? As you first, it kind of opens doors, but also as you're, talking to venues, you can kind of bring up the fact that you have a team of advisors behind you that's shaping the direction.
I have a
Amble.
fantastic team of advisors.
Yeah,
and a very good team, to be honest. Yeah.
And how did you get those early advisors?
Networking. I had been a few advisors that have said they can do things for me and just not. And you kind of, I did in the early days sort of like spend a lot of time thinking someone's going to really help me get going and really help me find the next investor, and it's all bullshit. However, out of like a few people, there's been like people I can count on my hand.
Yeah.
Out of the tens of people I've met, that I'm like, okay, this person genuinely believes in me and what I'm doing, and is helping me get there.
Yeah. Bingo. I used to take it.
My radar was trying to figure that out,
No, and I guess, I mean, I'm facing a similar dilemma. It's like I'm a bit naive. Maybe this is just, I guess, my age or lack of experience, but I see someone give me validation. Sometimes it's just like smoke up my ass, but I always get people that really like me and make all these promises, and then it doesn't come true. And early on, I would get offended by that. But
no, just a lot of there. There is a lot of that out there. I think what I learned is the more I've just done myself that I thought I couldn't do.
Yeah,
you're the right people.
That's right. That's right.
And that's really it.
And putting yourself out there, I saw that it seems like early on you kind of went to all the major conferences and shows. And was that helpful in any way for you to put yourself out there to meet the right
100%,
people?
100%. Like the people you meet, the people you talk to, it takes one conversation, and some of our best business partnerships have me kind of being a stalker, like knowing someone's going to be at somewhere and waiting for that opportunity to speak to me.
Man, I feel like you're, maybe I'm just like you, but in a younger form, man, because I went to a conference and I'm 25.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just say, so yeah. Hey, 25.
I went to my second conference. It was the Restaurant Finance Development Conference. Mm-hmm. And I knew who was going to be there because, they give you an app and you can see all the signups. And I have my Excel sheet, my CRM, and I know every person that I need to talk to. And I've studied their face. I've looked at their background, almost in a way, kind of stalked them a little bit. But then as soon as I saw them at the conference, I just went up to them. And that was scary at first, just like putting myself out there. It's like, who is this guy coming up to me? But that really helped me and also helped me to realize that they're just people, right? They might have this like extravagant background, presence online, but they're just people that are running a business that have the problems that you're trying to solve. So why not?
Well, this is the thing. You fear negativity and you fear rejection. Forget it. Like, again, going back to my, job in finance, wasn't glamorous. It's cold calling, selling financial products. Difference is there's 100 businesses in London selling the same products for the same people. So you get rejected 99 times out of 100. So you just build up this resilience, and that's what you're doing there. Is like you've got to build up resilience. Like, I don't fear it. If people say no or they don't want to invest or whatever, whatever, you know, and
I
you just
hear you.
get better and better at it. You know.
I hear you. What are you guys doing to stand out? What are you guys doing to, differentiate Amble from the rest of the competitors?
I mean, look, there's like in terms of the product itself. I mean, there's a couple of things that I've looked at, and the trends of the market. People that want content, people want to know everything about that venue, from the vibes to the reviews, everything, and it all needs to be in one place. Like you watch people do it, and we've spoke to hundreds and hundreds of customers, and it's the same. Google, then the pictures, then the review, then to Instagram, and then to TikTok, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Let's put it all in one place. And we try and make the content as good as possible, and then it's also the actual availability that you get online, because actually a lot of restaurants won't put all their availability online. They might put 50, 60, 70% of their tables online and hold the rest for walk-ins or phone-in. Yeah.
Right. That's right. That's right.
When you
That's
see
right.
something online and it's fully booked, it probably isn't, because when you call, you might get a table. But obviously, working with the systems, we're starting to get more and more availability, because actually they want to be seen more, because when people search on the app, more availability, you've got them where you come up. So it's kind of solving that problem as well. So actually, we tend to have more availability than others.
And you guys charge per booking? You guys take a percentage of the booking, or is it just a
No.
platform fee? How do you guys monetize Amble?
Yeah, I mean, look, we charge a very modest subscription for venues, and then we have a couple of other marketing and other things that we do, and data that we can obviously extract for them as well. I don't necessarily like the model of pay per booking, because I think that what I saw in the early days, as an example, is like people want to go out between 7 and 9 o'clock to eat, right, on a Friday or Saturday or Thursday night. And if the restaurant knows they're going to get bookings at that time, they will stop taking bookings at that time if they're having to pay for those bookings at that time, because they're getting them anyway.
Exactly.
So you actually don't do any difference to the customers. Obviously, if you're just paying a subscription, the more you get, cheaper it is. So that's kind of why we shifted to that.
And it would make sense for the those you call it like last minute reservations. If you're able to fill a seat, I think you should, and you're doing the work to fill those seats, I think you should get a percentage of that. But in the grand scheme of things, it makes more sense to create a platform that differentiates itself based on
totally.
the customers and the data you provide.
Yeah, I don't want to limit it right now.
users.
I wanted something, again, that goes back to what's an easy sell for venues. So I'm going to get all of this and I pay this. Yeah, anything else? No. Well, fantastic. Right? And I'm more obsessed about scaling this now on the growth side of things, because there's a lot of other revenue features that we're building and doing. And this is just like the start one, There's so many other features and ways we can do stuff. Like, we've got a lot planned for that.
I think this is a good segue. What the heck are you doing in Dubai, man?
We had a good partner in London that we started working with, growing our restaurants and building, and we started to get interest from Dubai because of it. And I think, like, after I kind of got the green light to go to Dubai, I flew out 2 days later, just said to my wife, I'm going to Dubai. She wasn't even surprised, because it's kind of the thing that I would just do. And I landed here without knowing. I'd never been. So I landed here, and it's in the middle of the desert, right? Like, landed with a laptop. I'm like, right, okay, cool. So I was here for 5 days, and I just started cold calling. Or I booked meetings before I came, cold call, just started hitting it. And I came out in the middle of summer, so June last year. It's 45 degrees.
That's horrible.
Mate, I was, and going to restaurants and traveling around in that heat, non-stop, 10 meetings, 20 meetings over that, 10 meetings a day, sometimes, right? He got very ill from it, but it was the time to do it, because no one was really here. It was quiet. It was time to speak to people. And I was like, if I don't do this now, then I'm going to miss this shot. So I just got on with it. And then I was back and forward from the UK to here. The UK team is obviously going well and strong. My co-founder's there. So luckily I had that support to go and just hit the ground here and start building a team and establish it. And yeah, we're live. We went live last 2 weeks ago now. So mid-Jan.
Congrats.
And thank you. And started with literally just my laptop and where the hell am I? So now we've got about 220 of the restaurants on, but the best restaurants in the city.
Yeah, and the best clubs. I took a look. It's amazing.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
How is it different to do business in the UK and Dubai? What is the
really good question.
Yeah, I guess What are the norms? Like, how is it different? What has surprised you? Like, super curious about that.
Okay, so like what I've found, everyone's here for a reason in Dubai, right? Everyone is here for work and to build something. So you're in a place where everyone wants everyone to do well, you know, and no one's, I mean, people have lived here for a long time and it's home to people, but it's not, it's a new place, right? It's a completely new place. So like, you know, I grew up in a small town in Essex in England, commuting to London. The opportunities are in London.
Yeah.
Here, it's everywhere and business happens quick. Although on the flip side, I came with a product that I tried and tested in a major city. Now, could I have done that here? Probably not. Because in London, you could test in a small part of London and then another part of London and then grow. Here, it's one place. You've got to get it right first. So I would say from a velocity of business is, I've never seen anything like it, to be honest, at all. It's welcoming to business.
I'm sure. Like you said, everyone there is open for business and business moves extremely quickly. Do you see yourself, so Dubai, so you guys did the UK, Dubai. Is there any other markets that you're kind of thinking about next? After spending some time in a new place and proving to yourself that you could do it, what's next for you guys?
It'd be looking to do it again in other major cities where we can get like a real critical mass and do it quicker and easier and kind of cheaper and prove that out, you know? So really what London and Dubai is like creating these blueprints of being able to do it. Like, you know, I want to open up in the next city, but not have a team there and see if we can do that just for integrations and partners. That's kind of what I'm looking to prove that out. Then at least, you know, we don't need to keep growing the team.
I see what you're saying. So like if you have like one hospitality group, right, and they probably have multiple brands in different countries, and you can kind of like leapfrog your way to all these different locations and kind of try out new markets. I guess like when I think of Dubai, I think of technology. I feel like it's an innovative place, and people do use platforms like Amble to find their venues to book. If you're thinking about moving into other geographies, are you in any way kind of concerned about maybe the technology adoption being a tougher sell in other parts of the world? And then if so, like how do you think you're going to change the experience with Amble in order to attract new customers in different parts of the world?
Look, the biggest thing that takes time is behavioral change. And that's kind of what we're doing with Amble. So it's not like people use it and then, you know, to be fair, we have when people use it, they do use it again and again. But you are trying to change your behavior and it's different everywhere. So like, for example, in London, I would never order Deliveroo or Just Eat or get an Uber. Here, I Uber 6 times a day. I order from Deliveroo 3 times a day because it's cheaper, it's quicker. No. So here's a different kind of, I see. You go somewhere like Europe, things are slower than here. Some parts of London, some parts of the UK, right? So you kind of got to adapt again, but it just comes down to how the tech works with already what they're using, you know?
Exactly.
And then going back to the point I said at the start of the call, is like, okay, so in Dubai, this kind of solves a problem for a lot of people because everyone's got disposable income. Everyone eats out. This is the best restaurants in the world and they're all growing. And there is nowhere that shows you all the best restaurants in one place because there's so many opening all the time and there's nothing. It's a great bang. In London, it's competing with stuff that's already there, but not as the big stuff, but they're not moving fast. Like there's a different kind of market and there's a different kind of sell, you know? So that's how you kind of got to adapt to it. It's like who you're going to sell the product to. Who's your audience when you get there?
That's true.
You know,
that's a good
not
point.
Not going to be everyone.
That's a really good point. Listen, one of my favorite aspects of using the app and using I played around with both the app and also on the browser.
Yeah.
One thing that I haven't seen anywhere else is those videos, the photos that you have. I thought it's like excellent. These videos look like they're professionally done. And if I was using Amble, unfortunately, I'm in San Francisco. You guys aren't here yet. Hopefully you come one day. You know, if I was looking for a place to book, I don't go to the Google reviews because it's really bad. If I'm able to see like the ambiance, if I'm able to see the vibe of the restaurant or the venue, I think it would definitely convert in me booking it. So how do you guys make all this content? And then also your TikToks are hilarious. Like you guys have some of the best marketing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's one of its
The team,
kind. Like,
the team will be happy. I'll let them know that. We'll save that
yeah,
clip. They'll be happy with that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah. Give them a promotion. Yeah. What do you guys do for your marketing strategy? How has it evolved? Is that a way that you guys kind of stand out from the competition?
Yeah. So like with the app side of things, the thing for me was when I was going around London, I'd find so many restaurants that I'd never heard of and never heard anyone speak about. Yeah, because when you like, if I said name 5 restaurants in San Francisco or New York, I guarantee everyone else would kind of probably say the same ones in the same way they do with London and here, like the
Yeah.
just stuff, right? And they don't think outside of that. And that was the thing that bugged me about all the other booking platforms where the restaurants with money and the big brands paid to be at the top of
Right.
it. All these other brands wouldn't be seen. So like I'd go into a steak restaurant in London, family run, and it would be the most beautiful style, gorgeous restaurant, but they don't have the money to do like photography or pictures. So it's completely wasted. You can't even, the website's not even like an old 15-year-old
Yeah.
website. So it's like, no
Or,
one knows how
or
good
they
this
don't even
place is.
have it up. Or they don't
No,
even have it
no
up.
one knows how gorgeous this place is. No one knows how
Yeah.
fantastic it is. So I was like, I need the content in the app to be like everything we can to help the restaurants be like, show people what you've got from the food to the ambiance to the vibes, everything so that people can really see what you're trying to offer. And the more content venues do, the better. So we invest heavily in that. And we do a lot of content for the venues as well. Because again, like that builds relationship. That's where the team are good. Like we can do that. It's mixing the non-scalable stuff. We're building tech to help do it better, but
You're right.
you've got to do the
Yeah.
non-scalable stuff right now. You know,
Exactly.
we've even done videos for venues and they're like, please, can we use this for our ads? Like, how much would that cost? And I was like, no, no, do your thing. You know, maybe I'm missing a trip more money, but
Yeah.
no, do your thing. But then on the marketing side, like with the team, I mean, look, we've got a rare opportunity as a startup, and I feel like people really want to know who are behind stuff these days. And you know, like, okay, we can sell the products. Of course, we need to do that and talk about the venues that we've got 100%. But like, people buy into people, and you know, by having a great team and working hard and showing that hustle and showing how we're trying to do stuff, it's content that's kind of people like. You know, because it's very rare. There's all these big companies out there that have been around for 25 years. No one knows what's behind it. Like no one's, you know, to hopefully witness the start of something that people are like, oh yeah, I was there when they started, da da da. It's nice, you know, so we're big on that content, but it's taken the team, like, it's taken us a long time to do that. But to be honest with you, they're so creative. I'm massive on the creative side. Like my co-founder, Jed, is very pragmatic, like data and the numbers and like making sure everything like runs smooth. Whereas I'm just like, just want to sell and create and just do stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
so
you guys make a
I
good
need
team.
him. I need him. I need
Yeah.
him.
Well, Aaron, you guys built an amazing platform, amazing story. I feel like just for me, like after walking away from this conversation, I'm probably going to get on the phone tomorrow morning and just, hit those cold calls.
100%.
That's the only way to do it. I really appreciate you spending the time here. And I think for my audience, it's very rare to see someone that doesn't come from a tech background, B, a hospitality background, build an amazing platform that's selling to restaurants, venues, and now scaling it across, across the world. So hats off to you, man.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining me.
No, it's been a pleasure. We'll keep in touch, all right?
Absolutely. You take care.
You too. Take care.